every time I try and play a modern FPS, I find myself getting bored very quickly. And the boredom comes from the fact that it's pretty much always a case of spawn in, charge at the objective, kill a bunch of people, die and immediately respawn. You get loads of kills, you win the maps, but it all just feels really shallow because there's no real range or tension to the gameplay. Then on the other side, when it comes to more realistic shooters like Arma 3, Red Orchestra or Insurgency, they get more on the simulation aspect of things where war, for the most part, isn't particularly fun and you dying is often quite random. Well, pull your trousers down and do the helicopter because Day of Infamy, for me, gets the balance absolutely perfect. Now, if you were experienced with gaming on your 56k modem back in the day, you will notice a couple of similarities between Day of Infamy and the original Day of Defeat. Not Day of Defeat Source that Valve ruined, where Valve just lawnmowed over the concepts of the original Day of Defeat. No, the original Day of Defeat. Day of Infamy takes some of the maps from Day of Defeat, and they also had some of the source maps, but it takes the concept of that tight World War II gameplay and then has just polished it. It's literally as if someone's gone, okay, what was good in the original Day of Defeat? Let's polish that up a bit and apply some of the lessons we've learned in more recent games. So to give you an idea of why this is so good, and it might not immediately be apparent, because admittedly, the graphics do look a little bit dated. It does very much look more sort of like Day of Defeat Source, because it is using the Source engine. Where this really works, as I say, is the pacing that comes from all the other elements coming together. So it's a sort of, the pacing of the game is an emergent property of how all the weapons work, how the spawning works and everything else with the game. It's just absolutely superb. So the first thing is the weapons actually have realistic damage. It only takes a couple of bullets to kill someone in this, and you can just drop people. So you can have a room of 3 or 4 people, you can charge in, you can kill them all. Of course, it's quite likely they'll turn around and shoot you as well, but if you've got good accuracy and you know how to control the recoil of your weapon, you can take them all out. It's not like Day of Defeat Source and some other first-person shooters where people are seemingly immune to bullets and can just absorb thousand upon thousand bullets when you just stood there shooting them. People will drop when you shoot them, and it's really satisfying, really responsive, and it actually gives you a chance to get out of really hairy situations so long as you know what you're doing and you know how to handle your weapon. Though the maps do look a little bit dated and a little bit low in detail, they're not filled with pointless clutter. They're actually focused so that you can actually strategically work out where other people are, how to approach them, how to flank them, how to work with your teammates, how to bounce your grenades off things, where to use smoke. It's at that perfect level of detail where there's enough detail there to make you feel as if you're in some sort of somewhat realistic World War II environment, but not so much detail that your brain's being fried with all this crap everywhere that's totally superfluous to the gameplay. As for the overall design of the maps, it's that perfect balance between a crafted map and something that feels somewhat realistic. A sort of in-between your sort of Counter-Strike Go type level or original CS level, and then your more sort of realistic Red Orchestra type of level. The result, of course, is you get actual gameplay where your team can plan, use the map to their advantage, and you can identify where the choke points are, what's going on, to then decide if you're going to try and flank the enemy in a certain way, and then you can approach that with an expectation, which again removes a lot of the randomness that can be found in the more busy, realistic, close quarters first-person shooters. Something that has driven me despair with more recent FPS games as well is that because they want to do all these fancy, bloody smooth animations and have it all look cinematic from a third-person view, so when they advertise the game, everyone's like, oh, it looks like a film, it's so good. Those games they're so slow and unresponsive in the player movement, it just makes you want to mash your face into a blender. Again, Day of Infamy has done away with all the bollocks animations, and it's actually responsive and precise, and it moves really quickly. When you tap your mouse, you can when you tap your keyboard, you can jump or peep in and out of cover. It's even got leaning, and they do actually accommodate some aspects of the animation. With your gun moving out of the way and stuff. And okay, admittedly, it's not completely perfect in Day of Infamy, but really, once you've got used to it, It's just really crisp and sharp, in the same way that Counter-Strike Go, and especially the old Counter-Strike, is just really sharp and focused on the actual gameplay rather than superficial, superfluous visual and animation aspects that just aren't important when it comes to having something that's fun to interact with. Really, in short, this is just the perfect antidote to all the crappy FPS games that have come out in between 2003 and now. Now, as I say, there are a lot of first-person shooters. There are a lot of them are good. I mean, you can enjoy the more recent Battlefield games. You can enjoy some of the COD games, and you know, there's a place for them, and they're fine. But they just lack that sophistication. As I say, it's that mixture of tension, of moments where you're wondering, is that person chasing after me? Can I reload now? Will they catch up with me? How can I use the environment to outsmart them? You know, all these subtle things that don't really happen to the same extent or as much in the modern shooters, where it's just constant barrage of action. And it is strange that the early 2000s first-person shooters, I don't know what caused it. Maybe it was just a limitation in the technology, with independent developers just being modders, just being really focused on trying to make something as realistic as possible, but within the confines. You went flying, but within the confines of what the technology was capable of, somehow created these really refined and focused first-person shooters like Counter-Strike and like the original Day of Defeat. And it's just a shame that nothing has come out since that captures that essence, apart from this game here, Day of Infamy. Now, if I haven't sold this to you yet, I don't know what else I could say, but really, to me, it really represents what I think first-person shooters are capable of, multiplayer first-person shooters. And because we've had so many bland action Call of Duty, modern Battlefield games, which are nice and fun and they do their own thing, but we've had so many of them year after year after year without these more dynamic games, this just stands out, and it's the perfect antidote to that gameplay. Now, of course, Day of Infamy is early access, and there are aspects to it that aren't perfect. I think it only has a couple of maps at the moment, 4 or 5 maps. They are working on a bunch of new maps to bring into it before the end of this year or early next year. And also, though I find the movement really sharp and responsive in many ways, sometimes the movement can be a little bit nuanced. Like, for example, if you're lying on the floor, you can't aim down the iron sights. I don't think they've got an iron sights toggle. So that takes a little bit getting used to. I can see why they've done it though, and it actually stops people camping in certain ways and actually makes the movement through the game better. So it makes sense from a design point of view. But if you're going from other games, some aspects of the movement can feel clunky, but it's not fundamentally clunky. Like, for example, the movement in close quarter battles in armour, or just it's not sluggish like the movement, for example, as I say, in Battlefield or games like Day of Defeat Source. So really, as I say, if I haven't sold this to you, I don't know what will. You need to get it. It's £10 in the Steam sale. I haven't had this much fun with a first-person shooter for a long time, and it just hasn't got any of the gimmicky bollocks. It hasn't got any of the levelling up crap and all this unlocking. You know, forget it. Just enjoy the core gameplay, and it really has that crunchy core gameplay that I just wish was in more games. It's probably the problem with, if you're someone that started off playing shooters back in day when everything was black and white, and then you kind of gravitate towards simulators, what you really thirst for is, you get a depth from simulators. With driving simulators, for example, you get haptic force feedback from a steering wheel, and there's an inherent depth to the underlying mechanics of the gameplay. And when you play a lot of those games, you go back to playing arcade games, and you just don't get the depth from it. So what you really want is arcade games, or less realistic games that focus on enjoyable gameplay, that offer the depth that you find in some of the simulators. And if you play simulators, it's really hard to then get the crunchy gameplay from arcade games. But I think this has done it. I think this has done it. It's an early Christmas present. There's a guy on the balcony. That's not the appropriate way to attack the building. We got stuck in a wall there. as you can probably tell, I was a huge fan of the original Day of Defeat, and this just triggers all those buttons were triggered. Day of Defeat triggered. And there's going to be so many fans of the original Day of Defeat that have been dying for a new Day of Defeat for so long after being betrayed by Valve, and I honestly think this captures the essence of the original Day of Defeat before it started getting downhill. All too long ago. We're showing our age now as oldie Dead Defeat fans. Maybe this will transfer people from the old Dead Defeat servers that are still running into this new game. But there's a link to the game in the video description. £10, I think it was in the sale. And well, for £10, I don't think you could get a better game. Even if you were only half enjoyed it as much as I did, totally worth £10. But until the next video, please subscribe and like if you enjoyed this. Don't die in your sleep. Thanks for watching and goodbye.